everybody. I've got a really, really exciting one for today. I'm hyped. Blademan, thank you for the 25-month resub. Okay. So, I played a limited PTQ, or RCQ, over the weekend, and I had an Aethermage's Touch in the deck. And I got to Aethermage's Touch into a Ashen Rider. I was like, man, this card is pretty exciting. And I was kind of thinking about, like, you know, if we put this card in Esper, Ephemerate, Reanimator, the version that we play this deck a lot, we won a challenge at the one time. You know, the ability to hit any of these 16 cards is really powerful, right? Obviously, ideally, you want to hit an Archon of Cruelty. Let's read the card. Reveal it. It's 4-mana instant. Reveal the top 4 cards of the library. Put a creature from them among the revealed into the battlefield. The rest on the bottom in any order. And then on the beginning of your instep, you return that creature to your hand. So obviously, you want to hit an Archon of Cruelty, be able to attack with it. Best case scenario, Ephemerate the Archon, you get the extra trigger, just win the game. But hitting a Solitude, Mulldrifter, Grief are also pretty good. But the big way we're trying to enable some consistency on Aethermage's Touch is with Witch's Cottage, the black land in the cycle of Mystic Sanctuary, where instead of just kind of hoping to hit something big with Aethermage's Touch, we can Witch's Cottage our Archon or Solitude Degree for Mulldrifter to the top, and then Aethermage's Touch the card into play. And what's really nice is that, you know, this comes online on turn 4. This is a 4-mana spell. Ended up being pretty smooth yesterday in my testing. And then, you know, the other big idea here is, you know, we've played a ton of, like, this Esper, Ephemerate, Reanimator shell. It is a good deck, or at least it's a playable deck in some metagames. But the biggest issue is that you only have 4 good you only have 4 good reanimation spells. You usually have to play a Rites to go with your Unmarked Graves, but you only have like 4 good reanimation spells and 1 mediocre one in the Unburial Rites. And so just having another good enabler to cheat something into play that also gets around Graveyard Hate and is an instant speed play is really cool. I think the card is very comparable to Indomitable Creativity. What's nice about Aethermage's Touch is it's an instant, and that it doesn't get blown out by creature removal sometimes like Creativity does. Obviously, it is a little less consistent, but Witch's Cottage, I think, has been a really good job of enabling some consistency. Cottage has also just been, like, good. Cottage has also just been good to, like, put a Mulldrifter on top, put a Solitude on top, and then, like, you know, have a really powerful, like, mid-game play as well. Like, this has just actually been reasonable, and I don't think that the Cottage really would have been supportable before the Esper Triumph got printed either. And then one more thing. We're playing Tainted Indulgence over Faithful Mending because the black in the casting cost is way easier than blue-white. And we have Terastodon on the sideboard because it works a bit better with Aethermage's Touch. And then there's a decent amount of big mana at the moment, too. I could only get one of the full art Mulldrifters, unfortunately. They're all sold out everywhere except for that one. Why Stony over other options? Stony is good against decks that you're using Unlicensed Hearse, Relic of Progenitus. Nihil Spellbomb is their Graveyard Hate of choice. So the idea is, again, you're just going to be able to Stony Silence decks with artifact-based Graveyard Hate and just turn that off. But I would never bring a deck like this to a stream untested. Bro, thank you for the gifted sub. Appreciate you. Okay, we just have Unmarked Grave Persist, which is always a keep. Put back the Archon. Probably just going to play the Cottage on turn 1. Yeah, my RCQ this weekend was pretty brutal. So I played RCQ this weekend. It was double Master Sealed. I wasn't really expecting... It was a 129 player tournament. I think that's Living End. It was a 129 player tournament, or 26 player tournament. So I was just kind of expecting to have a good time playing some Sealed. I started off 5-0. I posted a list of my... or I posted a tweet of my list on Twitter. I started off 5-0. It was really exciting. And then there's 2 more rounds. One of my friends plugged the tournament into a tournament calculator and told me that there was no way I could be knocked out of top 8 contention if I double drew in. And then I had a friend... Oh, brutal. I had a friend with an accounting degree double check the math manually, said everything was good to go. I trusted my boys, and I ended up having the worst breakers of all the 5-0s. Of course, my breakers are always just so bad somehow. I ended up having the worst breakers of all the 5-0s, and okay, hold on, sorry. It's probably gonna lose this game. I'm gonna evoke a Mulldrifter. Would really like to find a Solitude here. No Solitude. We do find Ephemerate, but we're taking 6, 8, 13, so we can't shock in the Watery Grave next turn. Maybe we should just go to Swamp, but then I guess that's the touch. So I end up having the worst breakers of all the XOs. I have to play the last round because if one of the X1s who got paired down wins, I don't top 8. But if that player loses, I make top 8 no matter what. I end up playing my last round. I lose a really, really close match. The player who I needed to lose won, and then I get 9th place. It was rough. It was so rough. Okay, I don't think that hitting an Archon saves me, so I'm going to disguise the Aethermage's touch deck. Really rough to get my Unmarked Grave Force of Negations, the best card of the matchup usually. Just put an Archon in the yard, make their living ends tough. Yeah, so it was a rough weekend for sure. Thank you, Doc. I haven't sideboarded for the living end matchup yet. I do think I'm going to be pretty heavy on the discard. I think that I'm going to go down to like 2 Ephemerates, trim Aethermage's touch. I need to keep the Unmarked Graves in. I always also, I feel like I really often cut Unburial Rites versus living end and like regret it. It's happened so many times I've cut this card and regret it, so I think I'm not going to. I think I'll trim a Mulldrifter, but I'm going to keep in the full art one for good luck. Yeah, my RCQ deck did play Aethermage's touch. It was a pretty good deck. I was a little bit, I think it was a little outclassed when I was in the last round, as like steel decks often become an amalgamation of you know, just like the best pools. What was my trophy record? I think it was 76. Okay, this says Solitude, Ephemerate, and a Teferi, but it doesn't have enough mana. I think I'll mulligan. Okay, let's keep this one. I think on 2 lands, I just put back the touch, and then I go Thoughtseize, try to find a land for Teferi. Hold on, let me try to pull up my list. I have to rotate the image. Oh my gosh. Let me cast the Thoughtseize. Alright, 2 Cascade spells. I'll just take both of those. So I was a 4-color. I was a 4-color deck with, oh no, it's inverted. Ah, fuck. Okay. I was a 4-color deck with like lots of good reanimation target, Tariel, Ashen Rider, Silumgar, Sidrus, but I had no real reanimation spells besides my Aethermage's touch and then the Sidrus to unearth and stuff. But I had a ton of removal and like a decent amount of card advantage. It was a pretty good deck. Why only 2 Ephemerate? I'm playing 4 Ephemerate in the main deck. This is a sideboard game. I've sideboarded 2 copies out. I'm playing 4. Play 4 in the main. I sided 2 out because I'm trimming on some of my Ephemerate targets, and specifically the living in matchup is like, that's usually not the game plan you're trying to employ. Alright, so hopefully we draw a land, but if we didn't, then they still have to have drawn a Cascade spell. Okay, we'll see. If they drew a Force of Negation into Cascade spell, good for them. Looks like that's not the case. Should I draw my card? I think I don't do. Just bless you now. TM, thank you for the 7 months. Thank you, thank you. My RCQ is just Omnath players drawing most matches. Yeah, that sounds about right. So if I draw a fetch land, then I'm going to put Mulldrifter on top, and then Thoughtseize them. I think I'll just draw a card, try to find a land. Missed. That's okay. We have Unmarked Grave, Persist. We also have the Aethermage's touch. But probably going to be on this plan here. Okay, opponent just packs it in. I historically think that this is a really good matchup for Reanimator. It can be tricky to sideboard, but yeah, I couldn't find any more art. This is the only Mulldrifter I could buy this morning. Everybody else was sold out. All right, I think I'm just gonna keep the sideboard plan. Click submit. Definitely want to have Unmarked Grave is the best card to have in your opening hands, so I'll definitely prioritize a hand with that. So this hand can go Grief turn 1, Mulldrifter turn 3. I think it's probably a mulligan. Okay, here's Unmarked Grave. We also have Tainted Indulgence. We have a Grief. I'm going to keep. TM 7 months. I've been through the 4th. Thank you, thank you. Lead on a Thoughtseize. Probably going to hold the Grief this turn. We'll see what happens. There's a Force of Negation, a Violent Outburst. I'm just taking the Force. Definitely need to draw a land at some point. They play Wood of the Foothills, which is a card we didn't know about. So there is Misty, Waker, Subtlety, Violent Outburst, and then just one mystery card. So it's kind of interesting here to me to take the Waker of Waves to deny any card selection, and then I could cast a Grief. Then they could cycle a Street Wraith, and if they hit a blue card, I lose. So I guess I'll just take the Violent Outburst, then Grief. And then if they Waker of Waves, then we just get to take whatever card they Waker. Okay. Obviously, my opponent might just rip a Cascade spell before we draw lands. It would be a rough beat. What do you think of playing Leyland the Voided side? Good Graveyard Hate Pitches to Grief. Living In is your best matchup as Reanimator. I know maybe we'll lose this game if they draw really well, but historically Living In is this deck's best matchup. The main deck I would consider playing a Leyland of the Void for is Living In, so I don't think it makes a lot of sense to play Leyland of the Void right now. The Reanimator Mirror is not popular. Dredge isn't popular. Dredge is a fine matchup even if it is popular. Alright, so I'll have to fade a Cascade spell this turn. My opponent's last card is Subtlety. We might die to Subtlety Beatdowns, actually. Might die to Subtlety Beatdowns. We now have an Archon of Cruelty in the yard. Looks like they are gonna start beating down. Obviously, if we could just draw Persist, things get kind of easy. We had kind of an awkward mulligan. 5 turns. Unmarked Grave feels so bad to cast. You gotta learn to love Unmarked Grave if you're gonna play this deck. It's an investment. Okay. Yeah, don't have infinite time. So I go down to 5, evoke the Mulldrifter. Then I have 1 turn to draw something. There we go. That's something. So unfortunately, most of our Archons are out of the deck. If we had a fetch land, if this was a fetch land instead of a swamp, we'd be able to Witch's Cottage back Archon of Cruelty. The deck plays 11 fetch lands. So we have a lot of outs to draw one of those next turn. Unfortunately, we're getting griefed, so we have to top deck again. So now we don't want to draw a fetch land. A lot of good draws, though. Alright, and I had to draw either Solitude, White Card, or Persist. Let's go. Let's go. So now we also have a Solitude in the yard if they do Living End. I don't know if... I think if they Shardless Agent, we're probably going to be fine. If they Violent Outburst, that might be a little too much. So if they Living In, we have Grief, Archon, Mulldrifter, Solitude. I think that they're thinking about cascading here. Okay, they are cascading. I think we're going to be okay. We'll see. Oh, they don't cast! They don't cast! What a play! Oh, and I drew Teferi. Oh my gosh, what an exciting game. What an exciting game. Still no Cottage. Dang it, if that's just like a fetch land, then we get to Cottage back like Mulldrifter there. Tree, 14 months. Nonsense, the 17th. Thank you. So we are once again needing to top deck. Oh my gosh. I can't take it. I can't. Yeah, I can Cottage. It's just like one turn too slow. Alright, good game. Unironic Aethermage's Touch? Yeah, unironic. I think it's actually good. I think it's good. It's very powerful with Witch's Cottage. The biggest issue with this deck has always been the lack of a second good, like, Persist card, like a good card way to cheat something into play. And so, Aethermage's Touch is, like, I think good if you hit Grief, Solitude, Mulldrifter. Obviously amazing if you hit Archon. And the idea is that you can Witch's Cottage one of these cards to the top on the turn that you Aethermage's Touch to add some consistency, and you have 11 fetch lands for your Cottage, so it should be pretty consistent. Yeah, what a crazy game. Alright, mulligan this hand. Okay, we have Solitude, Ephemerate. I'm going to keep this. I think I'm putting back Rites. Close, though. How's Persona going? I just finished the second Palace. Okay, playing against Amulet. Solitude, definitely a good card in the matchup. Rise Stocks, thank you for the 17 months. Appreciate you. Yeah. Toborg has been suggesting Aethermage's Touch for years, or like a year at least. It's his like favorite card by a lot, and there's been like billions of deck techs for the card, but I think this is probably the best shell. I'm playing Persona 5. The second Palace was the art museum. It's been pretty fun. Esther's been playing with me. Alright. That's maybe enough Aethermage's Touches. That's maybe enough. How do you feel about the matchup against Living End for that? I think the Living End is Reanimator's best matchup. I think we got a little unlucky to lose that one. Especially like game 1 they forced my Unmarked Grave, and like against Living End you're gonna lose games where they have just like the right 0-mana interaction into like a fast cascade, but I usually think it's your best matchup. Just like your game plan is really good against their game plan. They have a turn 3 Titan. That I think the 28 months. Thank you. It's a long time. I'm hoping that they have enough mana to transmute for a second Titan, then haste both. I get the Solitude, Ephemerate both. Awesome, Wolverine. Congrats. So they do get double Simic Growth Chamber. Which means they probably just have another Titan in their hands. Double Simic Growth Chamber is 8 mana. So I think they can triple Titan here. 2 10 months, they can thank you. Okay, so at least it's a Summoner's Pact. Oh, but they're getting Cultivator Colossus. That's probably going to be unbeatable. Alright. So I think I'm interested in the Nasty Terastodon and Thoughtseize. I think I'm wanting to cut the Teferis and the Mulldrifters. And then Aethermage's Touch number 4 or Solitude number 4. Probably Solitude 4. I cut Ephemerate, not Touch. Oh, I meant to cut Ephemerate. I may have said Touch. I did mean to cut the Ephemerate. Ending over Ephemerate. I don't think that, like, Ending is only good against, I mean, yes, Ending subs Relic too, but Ending, you know, is kind of narrow in the matchup. You can play some number, but you can't cut all your Ephemerates either. I think you need at least 3. Yeah, I wonder if Realm Razor is a better anti-big mana card than Terastodon. Says Aethermage's Touch incentivizes hitting Ephemerate. It's surprised it didn't add Gristlebrand. Well, you can't play Gristlebrand in your Unmarked Grave Persist deck. Like, that's just a different strategy altogether. I may visit this. I may try to play Aethermage's Touch in the Goryo's deck. You know, we've always spent a lot of time on this one. Aethermage's Touch is also really good with Obsidat. And this deck gets to play a lot more looters, so yeah, maybe you see me play this deck too at some point. But I wanted to start here. And I had a good time with this version yesterday. So it would probably be Aethermage's Touch over Priest of Fell Rites, and then probably 2 more lands would be this version. And maybe this version's better, but I haven't playtested that one, and this is definitely the kind of deck that I'm not I'm not super interested in playtesting very heavily off stream. So I think this hand is going to Grief Pitch Archon, and then we can go Unmarked Grave and Archon. And then we can Cottage Archon to the top and Aethermage's Touch it into play. We can also Unmarked Grave for Terastodon. I don't know. Like, so one kind of awkward thing about this deck. Ooh. I think I take the Grazer. I just want to slow him down. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Turn off. Oh. We'll think about it. It is a bit awkward that, like, Terastodon's definitely better against Tron than Titan. So, like, against Tron, I probably would hit the Terastodon here. Maybe against Titan, I just get Archon. Why Indulgence over Mending? Because we're playing 4 lands that only tap for black to support the Witch's Cottage. And because we're playing 4 lands that only tap for black, Mending is much harder to cast than Tainted Indulgence. Also, like, if you're trying to just, like, hit 4 lands, this is maybe the better plan anyways. Okay, I think I just saved these for Cottage. Just pass. So one nice thing also about Indulgence, or Aethermage's Touch, is that it is a cheat spell that does get around Graveyard Hate. Sometimes you have to get a little lucky. Although if I like Witches, if they get Relic here, and I go Witch's Cottage, get back Archon, is my opponent going to know to play around Aethermage's Touch? I don't know that they are. Yeah, I was watching Everose's stream last night, and he pulled up, he showed a foil copy of this basic swamp, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. I think we're just waiting here. Do I have to grief? Do I have to grief their freaking Cultivator Colossus? I do, don't I? I have to grief their Cultivator Colossus. I guess, hold on. If I just Archon, they're gonna Colossus with the Civic Growth Chamber bounces back. So they're gonna Colossus with 2 lands in hand. Yeah, I just have to grief. Hope they don't have another payoff. And I have the Indulgence to refill a little bit. Really nice to have some control over what you hit to with the Cottage. Really just like just powers up this card so much, it's crazy. Can draw step grief sometimes. We still have an Archon in the graveyard, so another Aethermage's Touch or Persist at top deck is really nice. And I've been kind of talking about this a lot, but this is like quietly the biggest thing, is that like before like the Aethermage's Touches, like you didn't have a density of good reanimation effects. But now you kind of do. Although we bricked really hard 3 lands in a row. Have a lot of good top decks though. Persist, Aethermage's Touch, both immediately put Archon into play. Can cast the Grief next turn, maybe chump block. Yeah, Terastodon would have been great. Maybe it would have been better. The problem is it bounces back to hand, and I probably just died to my like elephant tokens. Maybe I kill 2 of their lands, 1 of mine or something. Why no Brainstorm? yeah, Brainstorm would be pretty good. Brainstone is I think was suggested one time. Someone said Mind Stone. I think they meant Brainstone. I think it's a bit too slow. And you don't really need it. Just kind of like like how Mystic Sanctuary was Miracle's Brainstorm, Witch's Cottage is this deck's Brainstorm. Do you need one blue mana cantrips work in the deck? I don't think any of them are good. Whoa, no! Oh, Witch's Cottage enters tapped. It enters tapped, so it doesn't trigger. Oh, thank Colossus. Oh, man. That was almost a disaster. So they Dryaded to give all their lands swamps. They tried to get their Colossus back. But it did not work, and we end up drawing a Persist, which is great. Is the mana really so bad that we can't run Mending? Mending would have saved us versus Living End and let us ditch lands here. I mean, we have Tainted Indulgence, so like I'm not even sure that it's like very easy to just like play. I don't know how you fit Mending in the deck, right? You could cut it to Teferi for one Mending. Beyond that, I don't think that any card is super cuttable. One Mending as an Unmarked Grave target would be fine. But again, we have 4 lands that just tap for black in our 22 land deck. Mending is a really awkward card to play in a deck with that construction. So I think it's better to not play it, but I'm always open to hear what you would change. Again, I think you can cut the one Teferi for one Mending. I think that would be okay. Why did that work? Witch's Cottage has to enter untapped in order to trigger. So Vesuva always makes Cottage enter untapped, even though they did have enough the prerequisite swamps. It always has to enter untapped. So if my opponent draws Titan and they get like, I guess you probably don't have Handle Battlements. Most people don't play that. But I have Solitude for Titan. If they do kill my Archon with double Valakut, I can Witch's Cottage back. I can Witch's Cottage back my my Archon and replay it. I would swap Indulgence for Mending straight up. IDK how correct that is. I think it's very incorrect with this mana base, but you can do that. That's fine. I think the attitude that it would have saved us against Living End is like because we flooded off the Indulgence, we drew 2 lands. I don't think you're supposed to like just like change the deck like that where you flood out super bad. Obviously it would have been good in that exact one spot. It's also like in this version that is like this version is trying to hit lands more than the other version was. The other version was kind of okay operating on like 2-3 lands. This one really wants to get to 4 mana, and Tainted Indulgence not being card disadvantage does make it a lot easier to get to 4 mana. Yeah. The life gain. I know the life gain's also relevant there. But I think again, we're playing 4 lands that only tap for black. Indulgence is just so much easier to cast. Lumbering Falls, 4 months. Appreciate you. Like I think the mana is like really good and functional here. If you play Mending, it's going to be awkward. And then again, like it's just so much easier to hit the 4th mana when you play Indulgence over Mending. How do I donate to ask for feedback? If you type !deck tech WT, you can get info on that. Welcome to the stream. Is 1 Leviathan a reasonable reset option? 2 inconsistent weak. Yeah, I think it's just weaker than other options. It's a cool card though. I have it in an EDH deck. I don't know. Gondolin Diamonds, thank you. Yeah, I think the card disadvantage matters less than the other version, but in this one, I think it matters a lot more. Okay, definitely keeping Thoughtseize, Unmarked Grave, Persist. We're on the draw. We need to draw a land. Obviously, Cottage would be not ideal, but we'll take it if we get it. These Unmarked Grave are very hard to read. Really? This is Unmarked Grave. Okay, I think I just get Godless Shrine, because I have the Ephemerate. So if I draw Swamp, I can Ephemerate. Do you not like the flashback of Mending? I do like the flashback of Mending. Let's move on, please, though. Please. I don't want to have the same conversation over and over again. Am I taking the Grazer? You're good. We just keep talking about Mending versus Indulgence nonstop. I really think Indulgence is a lot better. But we can move on. I think I'm taking the Grazer. Okay, you can post a link in the chat, W2, you can take a look. I'm unsure about how to think of the sideboard for this deck. Okay, just Geisty Healy. Okay, so I will say that historically I am not a huge fan of the Just Geisty Healy archetype. I think that the combo is a little underpowered, and I've tried a lot of different variants, and I just think that for the most part it's not an amazing place to be. That being said, it's pretty fun, and you definitely can win games with it. I'd be super interested in playing the full 4 copies of Ephemerate. I also think that I would be interested in, like, probably maximizing the creatures, playing, like, 3 Wall of Omens, 4 Fury. Silence is interesting. I think I may be interested in the main deck Silence. Like, it gives you better time against Cascade. It obviously protects the combo. I would maybe go main deck 1, sideboard 2, though. That could be a good way to make a room for another one of these Wall of Omens. Slash Furies, and I would be interested in cutting one of the cheap removal spells for the other Fury, probably the 3rd Prismatic Ending, and then play the 4th Ephemerate, and you could do like 3 Bolt, 3 Ending, 4 Ephemerate, 1 Silence, 3 Wall, 4 Fury. Is probably how I would build the main deck. But I don't think the main deck is, you know, super off or anything. It's just, those are the changes I would make. They have an Amulet. Untapped White Source would be pretty good. My opponent can pact for Endurance, but they can't pay, so should be okay. Solitude's okay. Solitude's probably the best non-land card we could draw here, actually. Okay. As far as looking at the sideboard, I would like to see like 2 of the Silences in the sideboard. Probably over the Void Mirrors, because like Void Mirror mostly comes in for Cascade. Silence is also really good against Cascade, but then you have some extra equity. I think the rest of the sideboard looks really solid. I guess you're probably not too scared of Teferi Time Raveler because you play mostly at sorcery speed, so Flusterstorm over Spell Pierce makes sense. Well, let me take this turn. When discards a Dryad, I think we're just passing. Discarding Terastodon. Yeah, actually, I think that the sideboard looks very strong to me. At least it seems like a really good draft. I would be interested in. Again, just like having those 2 Void Mirrors be those 2 Silences going to the sideboard, but I think the sideboard looks solid. Okay. Good list. Flight Chat is 60% spike explaining close but clear deck building choices. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, like, they're always interesting, but... Yeah, I agree. Indulgence spending is interesting. There's some nuance. In this deck, I think it's... yeah, close but clear, I think is exactly how I would describe it. I think Dryad was the correct choice, but I think my reasoning for not taking Dryad was that I need to draw a land to win this game anyways, and if I draw a land, I'm going to be able to Archon kill the Dryad. Was my thinking. Win Coffers again? Any day now. We played Coffers last week? 2 weeks ago? I saw 4-color players putting Tails End in the sideboard for the Mirror and Living End. What thoughts on that? I've had success playing Tails End against Living End and 4-color and Tron as Jeskai Lotus Field. Obviously, you have some added synergy because you can Tails End your own Lotus Field trigger. I find that doesn't even happen that often, to be honest. I think it's fine. Sounds fine. Wait, what happened? They cast Grazer, then they don't put anything into play. Okay, so now they have to sack the Construct. Okay. 1-1, beating or losing to our best matchup in Living End, and then beating a kind of medium matchup in Titan. Tails, yeah, you can Tails End to counter the Cascade trigger. I think Tails End makes a lot of sense for the 4-color Omnath deck, especially since like double blue can be kind of tricky for the deck on turn 2. And then people get hyped and they come here and I'm like, well, you know, it's cool. It's not broken. It's cool though. Another turn. Is this the Titan again? So this is the cycle. So we do have turn 4, Witch's Cottage back Archon. Aethermage's Touch it into play. On the draw against a turn 1 Saga out of Titan. Likely to be too slow unless we draw some more interaction. Maybe we run the play. Could maybe be correct to not cast my Unmarked Grave. Okay, never mind. We're gonna try to win the game. Gonna try to win the game. I think I'll pitch the Archon. Okay, that was a good grief. Good griefs. Hopefully they're not main decking a relic for some reason. DJ Gigante, 12 months, appreciate you. Yeah, his content is definitely, like, it's not, I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of his, like, sense of humor necessarily, but he builds cool decks. We get Thoughtseize bugged. Some serious complaint equity here. I mean, if we draw Persist, we do have a chance to win this game. Take a draw step. Opinion on Deathrite Shaman unban? Y'all are coping so hard with the Deathrite Shaman unban, is my opinion. I just don't understand. Deathrite Shaman should never be unbanned. It's like not a card that just like breaks the game and makes you unable to play, but it like the 4-color Omnath deck would be the best deck for it. It would be like if you unban Deathrite Shaman, it is showing up as a 4-of in a top 8 deck every single weekend until it's banned again. Oh, they have Mindic Bog. If you unban Deathrite Shaman, it is showing up as a top 8 in a top 8 list every single weekend until it gets banned again. And it's my opinion that if you unban a card and it top 8s every tournament until the end of time, you've made a mistake with your unban, you know? So I just think that Deathrite Shaman unban talk is boredom. We're in this part of the Magic cycle where there's 6 months between standard set releases, so all the modern players are just incredibly bored and want something to happen. They just want something to happen. You know, it's just like these kind of like unbanned Deathrite Shaman. It's just a bored take, you know? It's just, I'm bored, I want something to happen. There's really, like, I don't think that there's a really good argument for unbanning it. You can make the same argument for Ragavan. You can't make the same argument for Ragavan because Ragavan isn't on the ban list. Ragavan is not on the ban list. I think you have to have a different approach to unbanning cards as opposed to banning them. It's not the same. It's really not the same, in my opinion. Okay, we have a Thoughtseize, we have an Aethermage's Touch. Hand's very close. Let's keep this. Yeah, Ragavan is also not in every top 8, but most top 8s. Listen, you can hate Ragavan. Like, it's also not a good argument. You know, I'm not saying that this is your point, but you can't have the attitude that like Ragavan is so good that you unban Deathrite Shaman. I think you could have an okay case for banning Deathrite Shaman, or sorry, banning Ragavan, but like this attitude that Ragavan is so good, let's unban Deathrite Shaman, I think is just silly. Ragavan tops every weekend. That's just, I think, not true that it's every weekend. I could be wrong. Most weekends, but there's definitely been several weeks where Murktide or Shadow have not top 8'd. Most weekends for sure. Deathrite Shaman would be the perfect counter to Ridden 6. Almost every Ridden 6 deck would play Deathrite Shaman. I think I'm saving the Thoughtseize for a turn. Yeah, almost every single Ridden 6 deck would just play Deathrite Shaman. But I just don't know. Like, come into my chat, just choose violence, talk about the bans. John would play Deathrite Shaman, 4-color Omnath would play Deathrite Shaman. Those are the 2 main Ridden 6 decks. But also, like, again, I just, like, I personally don't like the strategy of, like, trying to unban a busted card in order to keep other busted cards in check, you know? That's just, I think, usually not a good strategy. It almost never works out the way you want it to. But you can have your opinion, but you don't have to share it with me. Yeah, Bridge from Below. Bridge from Below did nothing wrong. I agree with that. Bridge from Below is kind of like the only one. I'm like, yeah, we could let that one go. Mead Lizard, 21 months. Appreciate you. So they still have that Summoner's Pact in their hand. Okay, I think I'll just go for Archon instead of Terastodon again. I'm not sure. Again, Terastodon is more so for the Tron matchup than it is the Titan matchup. Ooh. Okay, so I guess we Persist instead of Witch's Cottage, Aethermage's Touch, so that we can also Thoughtseize the Summoner's Pact out of their hand. And we get to kill this filthy Arboreal Grazer. And we get to save a white card for Solitude. Oh, Yawgmoth also gets to, or Yawgmoth also gets to be a really good Deathrite Shaman deck. Yeah, I think, you know, Deathrite Shaman is also like power level banned in Legacy too, you know. Maybe better in Legacy than Modern, but still. Just leave it on the ban list. So this could theoretically be a turn 2 Terastodon, but I think it's better to Thoughtseize them. Play around Graveyard Hate. Really good hand. Yeah, I mean, so people who say Green Sun Zenith should be unbanned, they're very innocent. They're very sweet. They're pure of hearts. They would only use Green Sun Zenith for good. Ooh, turn 1 Relic. Yeah, people who want Green Sun Zenith unbanned would only use Green Sun Zenith for good. What a nasty draw. Only use it for good. They would play it in like really goofy, really fun Maverick decks. But Green Sun Zenith would make Amulet Titan the best deck. Just like immediately the best deck. But anyone who wants it unbanned is either pure of heart or a secret member of the Primeval Titan Cabal. Okay, so I'm just going to wait on this Tainted Indulgence until my opponent taps out, or maybe at least one turn. Maybe I should have got Triumph into turn though. Why not take Amulet there? I'm a Graveyard deck and I Persist in my hand, and my opponent's got Endurance against my Graveyard deck. They're not playing Dryad. They're leaving up the Relic. Good play. Why are you talking about unbans? Because this is Aspiring Spike stream, and anytime anybody has a opinion on Modern, I just can't help myself but engage with it endlessly. Alright. So my opponent's hand is Dryad, 2 mystery cards. They don't seem like they have a lot of lands in their hand. I think I'll cast one of the Indulgences, maybe just try to get them to use the Relic. Ooh, okay, so discard Terastodon. Discard Terastodon. And then they're going to target me. And then I'm going to try to Witch's Cottage back Terastodon. If this resolves, I go Upkeep Aethermage's Touch. And if they pop the Relic, I can go Unmarked Grave Persist. I don't think we've Aethermage this turn. Okay, they do pop it. I think is the better outcome for us. Maybe they have another Endurance. I guess if they had another Endurance, I was supposed to play my second Marsh Flats to play around a second Endurance here. Didn't get punished, but we'll do that in the future. They discard Dryads. They probably have a second Dryad. With Solitude in hand, I'm definitely feeling pretty good here. Ooh. Okay, Amulet lets them cast Titan. Yeah, it didn't seem like they had an Amulet before. Ooh, guess we should upkeep the touch, huh? I mean, obviously no way to know we're drawing this. How does Marsh Flats help with Endurance? So, okay, so if I play Marsh Flats, if they have Endurance, I can respond to Endurance by putting Archon from my graveyard on top of my library, and then in my next upkeep I can Aethermage's Touch. Although it's better to Aethermage's Touch in your instep, because then it just gets bounced back to hand. If I get the trigger, it's probably better than not. I think I'm going to cast this end of turn. I think that sometimes you could just kind of cast it. Got lethal now. Alright, 2-1. Beating Titan twice, losing to Living End, which is our best matchup. It's okay to take an L to it occasionally, though. Squee, 33 months, appreciate you. Any Storm decks want to have a shot? I think Storm is like fringe playable. If you play Twiddle Storm or Blue Red Gift Storm, I don't think either. Either deck is unplayable, but I think that there are better combo decks and there are better choices overall, usually. Alright, opponent's conceding. Ed, 26 months, appreciate you. Welcome back. Song of Creation, yes, thank you. Song of Creation combo is the current new hotness. It is pretty good deck. Song of Creation, I don't know if it's the top one. Song of Creation, Creativity, I would say are probably the top two. Do you have any project decks I'm working on fleshing out? I always do, and I usually don't like to talk about them too much on stream unless I'm stuck and need some ideas. But for the most part, I like to, you know, keep them a secret until they work out or don't work out. The Giver's pretty good here. I might end up going Solitude, Esper Sentinel, then Persist, Solitude on the Giver. Don't love losing the Teferi, but I have the Mulldrifter to refuel next turn, and I mentioned this a little bit, but one kind of cool thing about this deck is the ability to Witch's Cottage back your Mulldrifters. Aggro, 10 months, thank you. Thoughts of Tainted Indulgence, Winning Split, and a more burn-heavy meta. So we've talked about this a few times. Ooh. We've talked about this a few times already. I'm playing Indulgence because this deck has 4 lands that only tap for black. I think that Mending in this list would be really, really tough on the mana. It obviously wouldn't be impossible to cast. But I think it's better. The deck's better off without it. I think I'm just going to Mully D. I think you want to get double white before double blue in this deck. For a Solitude / Ephemerate. I've got 1 card in hand. Yeah, just grief them. A lot of good draws here. Solitude is interesting. So I can either persist my Mulldrifter, or I can persist Solitude, exile Giver, and then I can Witch's Cottage Mulldrifter. I think I'll just persist the Mulldrifter for now. Like, finding a land to start hardcasting Solitude seems pretty nice. Okay. Yeah, so let me just go tapped Watery Grave here, and I can next turn play a 5-drop, and I can Witch's Cottage back either Solitude and then have pitch Solitude up, or just hardcast Solitude next turn and save the Mulldrifter for next turn. I'll leave this in play for Ephemerate. I can take 2. There's a Grief. I think it makes the most sense to just start Solituding here. Or at least, like, hardcast 1 Solitude, have another one for next turn. Esper Fruit or Blackwood Rock. I'm not sure how much... I mean, I think that with the amount of big mana that's been prevalent, I've been liking Rock more. Esper Fruit has more polarizing matchups, though. And if you can just dodge big mana, Esper Fruit is really good. And you can, and also, if you hit Amulet Titan with Alcarn the Great Crater, you're fine. Ever brewed a Planesbound Accomplice? Not very much, if any. Every time you say a card in this deck out loud, it still sounds crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces. I 4-1 my practice league, lost playing for 5-0 against Yawgmoth. The deck's been pretty good so far. But again, you know, this is why I like to test off stream, because I just wouldn't feel very confident playing something like this untested. I think I can grief here pretty easily. This deck is wild, explosive, and fun. Do you mind leaving a Yelp review for me? I think I'll pay to avoid getting Spell Pierced. We know they're playing Spell Pierced main. Okay, so up a game against Hammer Time. I'm gonna bring in these white cards. I usually like to cut Grief against Hammer Time. Probably gonna cut my Teferi as well. And then like... So Solitude Ephemerate is so important, I think I have to leave it in. And then my Aethermage's touches are definitely a lot worse, but they do pitch to Solitude, which is a huge important part of this matchup. And then I can just maybe rely on Witch's Cottage to set up the Aethermage's touches as well. And the fact that touch beats Graveyard Hate is pretty important too, or sometimes beats Graveyard Hate. Is old Esper Ephemerate Reanimator obsolete? I think that this is an improved version. Obviously, it's not that different from the old versions. This is just, I think, an upgrade to that variant. Prismatic versus March seems like a pitchable white stuff, instant speed. I mean, I think that the fact that Ending exiles Ragavan on turn 1 and exiles Relic of Virginitas on turn 1, I think it makes it more relevant. March hitting Urza Saga is really nice too. Being instant speed is nice. I still think I like Ending more, but you could make a good case for March or maybe some kind of like 3-2 split, 2-2 split. Okay, interesting hands. Probably have to keep. Bluey, I think with 8 months, and Mike with the 36. It's a long ass time. Appreciate you guys. What are the touches from old Esper Reanimator? The biggest one is we're playing Aethermage's touch. Guess I caught your pun. I think Belcher's good. I think Belcher's been underplayed since Besage was printed. Like Belcher was like close to a tier 1 deck. Or like very, very well positioned tier 2 deck at least before they printed Besagio. Then it kind of scared off all the Belcher players, and I think that's like quietly one of the big reasons why Omnath has been so popular too, is like nobody's playing Belcher anymore. I do think the deck is playable. It doesn't have a good Murktide matchup though. Murktide's like pretty good and popular. Daniel, 5 months, appreciate you. Awesome RM. Okay, I'm gonna look for a Solitude here. No Solitude, I guess I'm discarding an Ephemerate. Kind of wait for them to do this in combat. You would think that they'd want to be able to draw a land. They might just have second hammer. Okay, well. Game 3. Why did Reanimator kind of disappear from the meta after SNC? It was already kind of on the way out, I think, a little bit. I mean, Unlicensed Hearse also got printed in SNC, which is maybe part of the reason. What decks am I feeling in Pioneer? I haven't played Pioneer in like a month. I don't know. G-Wink's been playing a lot of it. I'm maybe gonna get back into it a little bit this week, but I've also been saying that as long as I'm like invested in Modern, I'm having a good time. I think I just need to stay focused on it. Yeah, I did miss this deck tech, thank you. So Yorion, Death and Taxes. I've seen people get punished by playing 2 castles a bunch. I don't think you channel it that often. I would probably just play 1. It's okay though, you can play 2 if you just disagree. It's not like I'm not gonna die on the hill. I also think that like Urza Saga trying to get your Aether Vial, I think is like not the best plan you could be on. I think I'll Prismatic Ending this. I think it's not a very good plan. Where like in Legacy it's way more reasonable because you can use your mana to like Rashad and Pour and Wasteland your opponent, and then like Urza Saga for Aether Vial is actually like gonna have the time to be a good reasonable mana engine. In Modern, I think that that's not the case. I think it's gonna be very difficult for it to be a good engine for you. Well, if I knew I was drawing land, I would not have capped. I think we're gonna keep playing my fetches in a little bit. That being said, I don't think it's like a terrible way to build the deck. I just think that it's a lot worse than Modern. I think your creature suite is fine. I would be somewhat interested in playing the white Archon of Ephemerate. Not like this deck. Oh yeah, so no, yeah, you should be playing 4 Esper Sentinel. I missed, yeah, you should play, especially in your Urza Saga variant, like it's an artifact for Urza Saga. Esper Sentinel is like, is better than any other card too. It's a tutor target off Ranger Captain. I missed that you weren't playing it. You should be playing 4. You can pick 4 cards at random, maybe the Aven Mind Sensors, maybe the Timeless Dragons. Those seem like the weakest cards to me. Alright, I'm in. I'm in. I guess I'll save this Delta for a Cottage. Just play this tapped. No setup with the Cottage, nothing in the graveyard. Just gonna hold the touch until their end of turn, I think. Yeah, I think probably cutting the Timeless Dragons in the Wisp or the Mind Sensors for Sentinel makes a lot of sense. I think you can fill up the rest of the sideboard with like the full 4 Mind Sensor if you think that's really important for beating the Titan matchup. You can. I haven't liked sort of War and Peace as a card against Onmath. I don't think it's like the tech or whatever. Oh, sorry. I should have played my land so I can pay for Sentinel though. Sorry, I should just play Swamp. That's okay. They can have a card. Okay, so we had Solitude instead, or Mulldrifter. I think I'll just take the Mulldrifter, block the Sentinel. Okay, block here. Okay, that's a pretty good one. So Mulldrifter comes back to hand, which is nice. Aethermage's Touch, I've only thought of that like commander card. Yeah, I mean, that's the new tech for today. What's really cool about Aethermage's Touch in this deck is you can use Witch's Cottage to put your Archon or whatever you want on top, and then Aethermage's Touch into it. That's kind of the new tech. Yeah, that's the new tech. And then Cottage is also just kind of nice, like sometimes put Solitude on top of your library, sometimes put Mulldrifter on top of your library. Yeah, I think those are my thoughts. Besides, like, just like again, I would play What Plains over the second castle. I would cut those cards for Esper Sentinel. I'd probably cut the War Piece for like 3rd Mind Sensor or something. I wouldn't change very much. I don't think your list like needs a ton of changes. Yeah, I think we have to let this resolve. I could have I just let this. Yeah, I don't Solitude it before attackers. I think they're thinking about Ink Mothing, but instead they're gonna leave up there. They're gonna leave up their Relic activation. So blocking with this blocking the construct is interesting because I lose the ability to. I like the synergy. Doesn't it feel like Touch is just too weak of a card? No, Touch has been really good so far. I was definitely concerned, but I've been really impressed by it. And again, like I will also say, like it really helps compensate for the biggest issue that this archetype has always had, in that you're just like lacking. Sorry, hold on. This deck has always just felt like it's been lacking a second cheat creature into play spell besides Persist. Like there's just like not another good one. I think Touch is really good in the deck, and then is also like a cheat spell that gets around Graveyard Hate, which is pretty relevant. Okay, so I think I'm just taking my draw step, and then I can go. Okay, now I'm just gonna go Cottage, target the Solitude. My opponent, I think, is just gonna pop the Relic. And then I can go Unmarked Grave, Persist, and Archon. But then I would have to chump block for the turn. But that would maybe be okay if I have chump block for a turn. Because then I could likely Aethermage's touch back my Archon. I also have like plenty of good draws here. Do you like the Grixis creativity? Yeah. So yeah, I think this deck is very comparable to the Grixis creativity deck. It's very similar where that deck plays creativity as your extra cheat into play card. The differences are, and then this deck is playing Witch's Cottage instead of Dwarven Mine as its enabler. It's very similar. What's really nice about this version compared to that version is you're not vulnerable to creature-based removal like the other version is. And the issue is like creativity always hits Archon. This one requires more setup to hit Archon. Wouldn't mind finding another Solitude. Okay, no such luck. Very likely to survive. We're at 17. We're reading a second hammer here. Shadow Spear is definitely like the most concerning card, unfortunately. Why not Terastodon here? Seems like a slam dunk. I haven't historically liked Terastodon against Hammer Time because they can just kill you with the elephants a lot, but I'm definitely open to hear what you would play the Terastodon over. You can also just take 11. I could take 11. I could also block an Aethermage's touch back an Archon, but maybe just like attack with Archon, hardcast an Archon is best. Tim, if you type ! Deck Tech, you can, I will take a look. Okay, so if I block here, they animate the Nexus, and then this is going to be 5 plus 11, which is 16. What do I die to? 16 is not enough. I don't die to anything, I think. I guess I did a Blacksmith skill. I'll die to Blacksmith skill. I think this gives us our best chance to win the game. Maybe we're winning anyways. It was fine. Like 20 months, appreciate you. I don't know, maybe if they make that attack, I'm supposed to read this, that they have the skill and play around it. Close hand. I think I'll mulligan on the play. Okay, well, we could keep this. Just try to Aethermage's touch with Ephemerate. I guess that's probably keepable on 6. Maybe mulligan this if we were 7. Would mulligan if we were on the draw. Angel of Serenity against decks like Hammer. I think that I think it's probably like way too lost in the sauce to like have like us like Angel of Serenity for the Hammer Time matchup. When you say decks like Hammer, I don't know if I would play a different card there. Archon is really good against them. It doesn't immediately win the game like Angel of Serenity might, but you don't have infinite sideboard slots either. And then I also think the Hammer Time matchup is generally good for Reanimator too, where I think you have a good time game 1, you're a Solitude Ephemerate deck, you have Prismatic Endings post board. I usually find that matchup to be fine, and so I'm not necessarily trying to find a super techie card for it. Okay, looks like we're playing against Belcher, which is a bad matchup. What do you think, Archmage from Murktide? I remember you saying that you thought it was not a flex spot. A lot of players have been cutting them. I mean, obviously the addition of Ledger Shredder has melted every single Murktide player's brain, including mine. I'm not immune from the brain melting. I think Murktide went from a deck that had like 1 or 2 flex spots, and some players like, you know, obviously like back when the deck had like 1 or 2 flex spots, I always like 4 Charm for sure. But now the deck has like 64, 66 really good cards you could play, and there's no combination of them that's bad. There's not a single bad way to build Murktide. There's certainly better ways to build it than others, but there's no bad way to build the deck, I think. And every single Murktide player's brain is just completely melted, including mine. Lane Pants, thank you for Twitch Prime, appreciate you. What would I pick for Merc 4-color meta? Merc side says 4-color. I definitely food. Esper food. Ledger Shred in this deck, your curve's not low enough, you're not playing Mission's Bauble. All of a sudden you're vulnerable to cheap creature removal, which this deck is currently not. Alright, I'll just concede. Just wanted to see that they did go for the Reforged pile. I'm going to bring in my Stony Silences, I'm going to bring in my Thoughtseizes, my Terastodons, I'm going to cut my Solitudes, I'm going to cut my Mulldrifters. I think I cut my Teferi too. Not that Teferi's too bad, it is good against Reforged, but I probably need to be a bit more focused. Yeah, Aethermage Touch is a true hero card. It's really good with Cottage. It's been really good with Cottage so far. I'm gonna submit a deck tech for Pretty Dreadful. Okay, I will just take your money and give you no feedback. My Lost in the Saucer is a 6-7 Titan for decks like Titan Omnath. Against Omnath, I don't think I'm interested in like having a dedicated sideboard card. I usually think Reanimator is really good against Omnath. Sundering Titan is better probably against Titan, but it's not very good. Okay, this sounds great. So Sundering Titan better against Titan than Terastodon is. Terastodon's better against Tron, and so my current evaluation is that Tron is a bad matchup for Reanimator. The Terastodons are mostly in the sideboard for Tron. You can bring them in against like Belcher and Titan too, but the Terastodons are mostly for the Tron matchup specifically. We're 2-0 against Titan, like Anglo Titan this league. I don't think that like you need like a dedicated sideboard card for that matchup. I don't think you need a dedicated sideboard for Omnath. Obviously, like it is like you would love to have just like a goofy tutor target for any given matchup, you know, but you can't because you only get 15 sideboard slots. And I think that your sideboard is better spent trying to beat Graveyard Hate. So you have Stony Silence against Artifact-based Graveyard Hate. You have Thoughtseize against Endurance and Surgical Extraction out of Mill. You have Teferi Time Raveler for Endurance and Counter Spells. And you have Prismatic Ending for Sanctifier and Vec, Rest in Peace, Relic of Progenitus. Those kind of cards. Okay, so I don't think I need to be too worried about the turn 2. I'm just going to put the Archon into play here, and then I can think about trying to play around the turn 3, or I can play the Archon next turn. Probably better to Stony Silence next turn. We'll see. But if I draw like a Grief, and I could Grief pitch Tainted Indulgence, then maybe I can see that the coast is relatively clear, and I could put more pressure on them. Yeah, Toborg, I've been waiting for you all day. We're Aethermage's Touch on the resub day. I know that you've been like demanding it for like a year now, but I think I finally cracked the code. I don't know if you were ever on Witch's Cottage as like the sideboard tech, but that's what we're on here. Okay, Stony Silence it is. Brent with the 12 months, appreciate you. Happy anniversary. Then Lane Pants with the deck tech. We post a link in chat, I can take a look. Can they answer Stony Silence? Aren't Faithful Mending and Indulgence just strictly better than Unmarked Grave? They're not strictly better than Unmarked Grave, because Unmarked Grave always puts the freaking card in the graveyard. Like, you only have 4 Archons, or at least I think the deck is best built with just 4 Archons. And so, like, you need to have an Archon in your hand to loot the Archon into the art. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, people have that opinion a lot, and I just can't, I disagree. Or so I can't disagree more.
Especially in this deck that's trying to like Unmarked Grave, then you Witch's Cottage your card back to the top, and then you get to Aethermage's Touch. It's just like, just that consistency is so important. And then Unmarked Grave can also be a reanimation spell with your Unburial Rites, although it's much slower, of course. Okay, blue-white artifacts with the Vesper Lark tech. I know this is the new hotness, I think this looks solid. Let me take this turn. I can take a little bit of a closer look. We've done this deck tech a few times. And then I think I would probably be interested in this list cutting the Ingenious Smiths and playing 4th Emery, 4th Vesper Lark. I think Emery is like quietly part of the piece of the puzzle to allow this combo to work. I think that I guess they have no cards in their hands. I'll just not play the second Stony Silence actually. I think if you're gonna play the Vesper Lark, you should just play 4 Emery, 4 Lark, no Smith. Besides that, I think the main deck looks solid. I might be interested in trying to play the 4th Portable Hole. I would probably play the 3rd Razor-type Bridge over the 3rd Citadel too, but that's kind of a small change. This is probably fine. I don't know that you have the 4th hole in the side. That's maybe fine. 3 Dispatch looks good. Menriki looks good. Meddling Mage, probably kind of tough to cast in your Saga Citadel deck. I think it's okay to play though. I think it's like not unreasonable. Okay, game 3 on the draw. I would play the second Stony out as not the single target artifact removal, but they had no cards in their hand, so it's like maybe they could reforge the soul into like some pile. I have no idea. So one thing is, like, I really like Flusterstorm over Metallic Rebuke in the sideboard of these artifact decks, where I almost exclusively want this kind of effect against Cascade decks. And the fact, and like, you don't always have the ability to improvise for 1 mana, and Flusterstorm is the better card against Cascade decks anyways. So for the most part, I just prefer Flusterstorm over Metallic Rebuke. I think that this card makes sense in theory for like matchups that you want counter spells, but for the most part, that almost exclusively ends up being Cascade decks. Like, the Mana Leak effect is not that good against, like, Titan or Tron. Okay, this is an interesting hand. We have a Tainted Indulgence for some filtering if we draw a land, and we have a Stony Silence to answer the Belcher. We don't have Ephemerate, and I also saw that my opponent boarded in Leyline of Sanctity, so the grief gets a bit worse if they did that. We're 22 land deck on the draw. My opponent's on a mulligan to 6. We were losing to Force of Vigor anyways. Yeah, grief hitting Force of Vigor is kind of nice. I'm gonna yellow this. I think this matchup's kind of bad. So like this hand having huge high upside if we just draw a land, I think is good enough for me. Shane, 30 months. Appreciate you. What's the combo with Vesper? Like, there's no combo. Just a value card. Gets all your stuff back. I have to be on the podcast soon. I've been so freaking swamped lately, though. Mold of 5. Stop being so busy. I'm trying. I'm really trying. It's really not getting any... My schedule's, if anything, getting more busy. I have some stuff coming up. So I wonder if I probably hold the grief for a turn. Okay, now I have 2 griefs. I'll grief. What if we double grief here and we take both lands? Oh no, I needed to pitch the Unmarked Grave and Indulgence the Archon into the yard. That was a mistake. It's not a huge one though. Ever finished watching Stranger Things? I did, yeah. I thought it was pretty good. Okay, we did draw the land. I think I'll just Unmarked Grave for Archon first. Proof Light, 25 months. Appreciate ya. Not a bad hit. So 1 land away from an Archon. We still have the Stony Silence in my hand. My opponent's, you know, pretty mana screwed. So I think I will Witch's Cottage Grief to the top of my library. Smoothie, 8 months. Appreciate you. So they have... I feel like it's going to be really tough for them to kill me next turn. Veil of Summer discarded. Archon attacks, put them down to... 8. No, I think I just persist this grief. Good luck, have fun. Good luck, have fun. Good luck, have fun. Okay, so we 3-2 this league. Weird league. We lost to our best matchup living in. Beat Titan twice. Lost to Hammer, which is also a good matchup. Titan, but then we beat Titan twice, then Belcher, which are historically matchups I think are not favorable. Weird. Alright, let's go for the flashy Ephemerate kill. What's good about this line is it gets them to no cards in hand. Will I change deck for next league? Nope. I'm really excited about this one. I'm like freaking hyped as hell for this, like what I view to be one of my most creative and interesting brews in recent memory. So I'm gonna probably stick to this one for a little bit. This is the Japanese